Hello and welcome. I am Raghav, and today we are going to learn how to do data-driven testing in Katalon Studio. This is going to be very easy and very interesting, and I will teach you step by step, and we will start from scratch. Whenever you face any issues, you can let me know in the comment section. So in this session, we are going to see how can we get data from external sources like a external Excel file or a CSV file. We can also get our test data from a database, or from within Katalon Studio we can create a separate test data and then use that test data. And then how do we refer values from this test data like an Excel file or a CSV file into our test cases. Okay, so this is what we will do. So let's see the steps. Number one is we will first create a test case. You can use an existing test case as well. So let's go to Katalon Studio. This is my Katalon Studio here, and let's say I will create a new test. I am going to the test cases folder and I will go to new test case, and I will say this is I'll call this as data driven demo 1. You can name it anything. Description and tags are optional, and we have got this test created. So let us very quickly record a test. I'm going to the record web here, and here I'm going to use this demo website, Orange HRM login. So I'll just use this and click on record. So we have got the recording started. So you can see, you can also expand this here and see the recorded steps. So I will first go to the username, and you can see the username and password is admin is the username and admin123 is the password, and I will click on login. And here I will click on this user profile down arrow, and here we have logout. I will click on logout and we are logged out. So that's it. I will click on stop here, stop recording, and click on save script. And here you can see it will add all these objects. I will say okay, and we have got our test created. Let me very quickly run this. So I'll just click on this run button just to check that everything is recorded properly and it is running fine. So it is starting the Chrome browser and goes to the application, enters username, password, clicks on login, and then logs out, and everything is fine. So this is all running fine. Now next step is, for the data that you want to refer from external file like Excel, we will first parameterize that data. That means we will create variables and then we will refer that the data values from the variables. So instead of hard-coded values, we are going to refer them from variables, and this process is called as parameterization. Okay, so here in the test case, let's say the username and password, we have username and password here. So these are the two values. This we want to parameterize, or we want to refer from the variables. So first we will create a variables. You can see we have got a variables tab here. I'll go here and I'll create variables. So I'll click on the add button 2 times so that 2 variables are created, and now I can rename it. I will double click here or click once, and I will call this as username, and this I will call as password. Okay, and now I'm not keeping any default values because anyways we are going to refer this from our Excel file. So I'll just keep it as it is here, and make sure that you save your project after after creating the variables. We have to save the project, and then in the test case we are going to refer the values from the variables, and we are going to remove the hard-coded values, and this process is called as parameterization. So I'll go back to the manual mode, and here I'll go to this username value, which is admin, and here in the value type, instead of string, I will select variable, and then when I go to the value column, it turns into a drop down. When I click here, it shows a drop down, and it shows the variables that I have created in my test case, and make sure that these variables will only be visible here after you have saved your project. So after creating the variables, make sure that you save your project, and then it should be visible here. So here I will say username, and then here for password, again I will double click, say this is should be coming from variable, and then I will select the variable password here, and make sure to save your project again. So now this is fine. Now of course if we run the test now, it will fail because we are referring it from the variables and we have not given any default value. So if you want, you can also give a default value here, but we are anyways going to get it from our Excel file. Also one more thing is, you can see the variables in script mode here. So if you go here, you will see your variables in a script mode. So you can see the same variables are here, username, password, in this XML script mode. Now this is handy because if you want, if you have your all your variables in a XML format, you can just import your file or copy your file here, and also you can export this. Okay, so this can be handy. Now I will go to step number 4, where we will create the test data file. It can be an Excel file or a CSV file, and then I will add the test data. So let's do that. So you can create a Excel file. Let's say I will first create a new folder on my desktop. I'll say new. You can create this folder anywhere, or you can directly create an Excel file. I will call it as test data, and here inside this folder, so I have opened this folder, and I'm going to create a new Excel worksheet. Now if you are having Microsoft Office, you can use that. If you are having any other option like LibreOffice, Open Office, you can use that. I am using WPS Office, so let me just show you what I'm using here for Excel files, or other Word files. This is a free option for MS Office files. So this is WPS Office. It is a free download, and this is what I am using. So you can also use this if you want. If you already have options already on your system to create Excel file, you can go with that. So I will do a right click here inside the folder and say new Excel worksheet, and you can name it anything. I will call it as, let us say, test underscore data. I'll call it as, let's say, test data, and open your file. Okay, now here we are going to create our test data. So here I have to first create, so we are using two variables, username and password. So let me create two columns. First is for username and then for password, and I will give values. So let us say I will say admin is the username. Now password, here you have to make sure that if in your test case, if I go back to my test case, yeah, so if I go back to my test case, you can see here for password, it has already used the keyword set encrypted text so that the password is not visible, and here we have to use the encrypted form of the password. And if you have noticed, before we parameterize this, the password that was available here was in encrypted format. So the same thing I will have to use in case we are using set encrypted text keyword. Otherwise, if you are using set text, you can give the password in its original form, that is admin123. But for now, to get the encrypted text of my password, we will go to help and encrypt text, and here I will give the password which is admin123, and copy the encrypted form, and then go back to our Excel file, and here I will give the password value. Okay, similarly I can now add multiple sets of test data. So based on your requirement, you can keep on adding, and this is one of the main advantage of using test data, external test data, that now our test data will drive the test, or our data will drive the test. Okay, so if I am giving, let's say, 3 rows or 3 sets of test data, it will make the test run 3 times with all these 3 values or 3 sets of data. So this here, whatever value you want to use here in case of password, you can use that, but it should be in the encrypted form. Okay, so let me just use the password same, but username I'm going to change, which should fail. The first one is the valid credentials, and both of these sets are invalid. Okay, so this is done, and I will now save, and you can close it, save and close it. Okay, now we have done step number 4. Now we have to add our test data in Katalon Studio. Okay, so until now we have created the test data in an external file, Excel file, but not yet add it in Katalon Studio. So for that, you can go to File, New Test Data, or you will find a Data Files folder within your Test Explorer. So let me show you both ways. If you go to File and go to New, you should see a option for test data here. Okay, and otherwise you can directly go to Test Explorer and you can see the data files folder here, and here I will do a right click and say new test data. If you want to create folders or organize your test data in folders, your test data in folder, if you have multiple test data, you can do that. Otherwise I'll just create the test data here, and here you can call it anything. I will call it as login data, and then we have option to select the data type. So it can be a Excel file, it can be a CSV file. You can also get data from a database data. I will show you this in a moment, this option, and then internal data. So these two options I will show you here. As of now, I will go with Excel file. Description is optional and say OK. So we have got this. Now here, the first thing we have to do is browse our Excel file. So I will click on browse, and now here it is in on my desktop test data, and this is my file, and I will add it. And you can see as I have added it, it has already taken all the values. It has also taken the sheet from here. And in case you have multiple sheets of test data, so let me show you. If I go back to my test data, and in case you have your test data in multiple sheets, as of now we have a single sheet which is sheet 1, and that is what it has already added. But in case you have multiple sheets, that also you can add. You will see a drop down with all the sheets of test data that you have, and you can add them here. Okay, select from here. Now here also there are some important settings. The first one is use first row as header. So if you have added the header row in your test data, like we have done, adding the username and password headers, then select this so that the first row will be ignored and the test data will start from the second row onwards. Then use relative path. This is very handy and useful. So let us say on this system I have created my test data on desktop, and therefore it has taken that path. You can see that path here, C users administrator desktop. But let's say tomorrow if I take this project to a different system, this path will break. Okay, so this test data will not go along with the project because it is outside the project, and therefore this will break. So to handle this, what we can do is we can move the test data within our project folder. So I will go to project and go to settings and see my project location. So this is my project location. I'll just copy this and I will go to this location. Let me close this. Okay, I'll go to this location of my project folder, and I'll move this test data folder in my project folder. So I'll just move it here. Okay, so it has come here, and if I now go to my Katalon Studio and go to project and refresh, you will see test data has come here. Okay, and now I will again click on browse, and this time I'm going to refer my test data from here. Okay, you can see now it is within my project folder, but still you can see this path can still break if I take my project to a different location. Therefore I will click on this. use relative path, and you can see as I click on this use relative path, this path has changed from absolute to relative. So now it says that inside this project there should be a folder called test data, and inside that folder there should be this file test underscore data dot xlsx. So now we don't have to worry about this path breaking, so this can be very handy. And of course you can check this if all your data comes as a string, you can click on this, otherwise you can uncheck this. Okay, make sure to save your project after this. So we have done this. After this we will go back to our test case and go to the data binding tab, and there we will do the data binding. So let me show you this. I'll go back to my test case now, and here you will see this tab data binding. So let's go here, and here click on add, and this will show you all the test data that you have added in your project. So as of now we have a single test data added, and say okay. So this is added. Now what we have to do is we have to map these variables which we have created in our test case to the values that we have in our test data. So you can do this manually by going to this default value and then from getting the test data value, or getting directly from test data, or we have option to click on map all. So you can see it says found two matches, and generally you will see that if you have used the same name, the variable names in your test data as headers, it will find it, and you will click on OK, and you can see it has added this. Okay, so this is fine, and you can save it. Okay, now we have done step number 7. We have already added the test data, and then we have clicked on map all. Now let's save and run. So make sure that you save your project, and let's run our test case this time, and let's see if it is able to refer our test data. And before you do that, let me just stop it. What I want to do here is go to your project settings. This is just for this demo I am doing, because our test is going to fail for invalid credentials, and then it will wait for 30 seconds, which is the default wait time, and I don't want to wait for so long. I'll just make it 4 for now. So you don't have to do it, just for demo I'm doing it. And now I will click on run, and let's see. So this should run 3 times because we have 3 sets of data in our test data. Let's see. It has opened the browser. The first set is valid credentials. So yes, it is running for the first set, which should be pass. And yes, it has started the second set, the test with the second set of data. And yes, you can see it used admin123, which is invalid username, so it has failed, and it will wait for 4 seconds before failing, and then move to the next set of test data, and this time it should use admin456. Yes, it has used it, and this is also working fine. Okay, so it ran the test 3 times with 3 sets of data. So you can now imagine, if I have to run my test with different data values, with different test data, or I have to run it multiple times with different sets of data, I just have to go to my Excel file, and I don't have to do any changes in my test case here. I'll just go to my Excel file, and I will add more data here or change it from here, and it will accordingly run the test case. Okay, now after this, if you add your test case to a test suite, how you will do the data binding? Let us see that. So I'll go to a test suite. Let us create a new test suite for this demo. I will call it as data driven demo suite. Okay, and I will add, I'll click on this add button, and I will add our test case data driven demo 1 here. Now you can see here we have show data binding. Okay, so click here show data binding, and it will show you these options. We can use variables binding at test case level. So that means it will use the data binding as it is that we have done at our test case level. Okay, so if I use this, it will run our test cases as it is that we have executed now, just now. So it is going to use the data binding at test case level only, but we also have this option to use data binding at suite test case. That means whatever data binding we do here, that will be used. And this can be handy because sometimes when you add your test case to a test suite, you may want to use a different data binding, maybe because you have other test cases and there is maybe some dependency, or maybe you want to use it in a group, or whatever is maybe the case. Therefore we have these options. So the same thing you will do here. Click on add. You can select your test data from the list, and then you can say map all. If the mapping does not happen automatically, you can manually go to test data and do the mapping with the variables and the headers of your test data, and make sure that you save it. So this time it will be used from suite level, although we are using the same test data, so it will not make any difference, but these are the options that you have. Also, if I go to execution information section of the test suite, here you can see you can set the timeout here if you want to override the default timeout. Also, if it fails, it will do retries. So if you want to do retry, you can select the count of retries, and if you want to retry after all the executions are done, you can go here and again set the count here. Okay, so I'll say save and I'll say run. So it will run using the data binding at the suite level. So it has started the browser, and we also have a setting done that for the failed tests, it will retry after all the executions are done. It will retry once for the failed tests. So let's see if that happens. So this is the second test data, which obviously will fail. Okay, and then the third set of test data. And after this, let's see if it will retry. So this is done, and you can see here it is again running. It is opening the Chrome browser, and here it is running the failed tests. So it is running all the tests because that's what we have set. And this is the last try because we have set the retry count to 1. Okay, and this is the next test. Okay, so this has also, you can see it has failed, and you will also see this in the report. So we have done all this earlier, the reporting, how does the report, we can see the reports and all this. So you can see we had this setting, retry after executing all, retry count 1, and retry all execution. Therefore the second time it has also run the past test as well. Okay, so this is how we can do data driven testing in Katalon Studio. I hope this was very useful. I will see you in the next session. Thank you for watching, and never stop learning.